What up, guys? Today we have the heavy bolt rifle, and the last time I used this weapon I was using the tactical, and I'm kind of curious to see if this weapon can hold up in siege mode using the heavy class. Now, we all saw how the devs handled, giving the bulwark the hammer, and I think it would be pretty cool if, maybe one or two of heavy's perks started to be a little bit more relevant for the heavy bolt rifle. And I did jump into this, I jumped into the siege mode, very underleveled. But just to be clear here, I am level 1. I'm level 1 Prestige 2, jumping into this siege mode. Honestly, I am pretty much still leveling the heavy class on console, and I was kind of just, hanging out, and I was playing the game. I was pretty curious to try to run the heavy bolt rifle with this underleveled heavy specifically, just to see how it performed with the heavy, basically base heavy. I think the only perk I have here is when I take out 7 enemies, I get an armor back. Now, I know this is pretty ridiculous. We are, of course, in normal siege mode, because otherwise that would be borderline trolling, jumping into hard siege mode with a level 1 heavy. Even Prestige 2. Now, don't get me wrong. The 2 Prestige perks that I have, pretty good. I'm getting some, less damage resistance, and also I'm making sure that I can get ammo back. That's probably one of the most important perks for heavy when it comes to siege mode, is being able to get ammo back on extremist executions. It's very, very important. Also, another thing that's very important, especially with this heavy bolt rifle specifically, is getting headshots. I feel like one of the best ways to get damage out of this weapon is to get headshots, and mainly due because of one of the prestige perks where you get extra damage on the headshots, but you are losing damage on body shots, which you can see right there. When the Carnifexes have their back towards me, I'm not getting that much damage, but as we also saw there, when the Carnifex turned his head at me and I was able to get some headshots there, a scanned Carnifex went down pretty fast. And yes, this is wave 10, and yes, your eyes don't deceive you, that is a dreadnought. This was a pretty weird siege run, to be completely honest, but hey, we have a tactical, we have a bulwark, we have a heavy, we have a pretty good base squad, and as long as I can hit some headshots with this build and also take out a few enemies at a time, like basically going for 7 enemies is key, just so I can get some armor back. That is the one perk I have on this build, so I should probably play around it. And the one thing I've noticed with Chaos, this weapon is actually not too bad. The only real benefit with this weapon on the heavy at the moment is your mobility. That's pretty much it, to be completely honest. I mean, obviously, using the shield is pretty nice, but you can use the shield with any of the heavy's weapons, so it's not, I don't really consider that like a unique trait to giving the heavy bolt rifle to the heavy is, hey, you can use a shield with it. It's like, we kind of need a little bit more. However, getting your ammo back on extremist executions, that's pretty good. I am definitely curious to see if the devs ever go back and rework maybe one of heavy's prestige perks. I'm definitely curious to see if the devs would ever add in some sort of heavy bolt rifle trait. That would be very cool. Oh, but yeah, of course, this is wave 14 Chaos, and yeah, this is kind of a sticky situation. As long as the heavy can stay pretty mobile like that, I honestly felt pretty comfortable getting some perfect dodges. And the Terminators, that's a big slam right there, by the way. And the Terminators are still pretty fun to fight. Honestly, when it comes to fighting Chaos, at least I get to fight a lot of Terminators. That's the one redeeming factor for me when it comes to fighting Chaos. Sorcerers don't really bother me. I really don't like fighting the Zangors. But as long as I went for headshots with the heavy bolt rifle here, I actually had a pretty good opportunity to get armor back. And yeah, that is what you call taking one for the team there. I was making sure I was able to get the objective done. But to be honest, you're able to get the objectives done no matter how many enemies are left, so you're probably better off getting the objectives done when there's like not as many enemies on the floor as you see right there. And I'm of course going for the res here without Bonds of Brotherhood. Also, unfortunately, I don't even have a team perk right now. I know when I show the opening the opening clip to the video, there were some perks there, but that was after we were able to get this done. making sure that I can get making sure I did go through the siege run, at least getting to wave 15 was pretty important to me, because if I wasn't able to make a deep run with the heavy bolt rifle on heavy, I just can't see any reason to use this weapon if it just can't perform at all on normal siege mode. I think normal siege mode, this weapon's actually in a pretty okay spot on the heavy. I would rate it at 7 out of 10. If I was to rate the Bulwark Thunderhammer, I would rate the Bulwark Thunderhammer maybe a 7.5, maybe an 8 out of 10 fully leveled when you have both of the Thunderhammer, Bulwark perks. I would say at least they made perks for it. So yeah, 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10. For the heavy bolt rifle for heavy, I would have a hard time arguing against somebody who said this weapon is useless and there's no reason to run it. Yeah, there's not a lot I can say of why you would want to use the heavy bolt rifle over the heavy bolter or the plasma or the melter for that matter. But ultimately, I just really wanted to see how it performed on siege mode. Especially, yeah, see right there. There's 2 players here without any team perks. So this is like a base heavy bolt rifle. And honestly, I was pretty surprised at the performance of it, just basically because of how underleveled I am here. And then also due to the fact that this weapon had a boost when it comes to headshot damage, and I think that's a pretty determined factor of where the DPS is coming from here, is just straight up getting headshots. If you're not getting headshots with this weapon, you're probably not getting great DPS. On the heavy at the very least. With the tactical, it doesn't even matter. You can just scan targets and get damage. On tactical, the heavy bolt rifle is a very good weapon. On heavy, it's not the best. But still, we were able to take out a fair amount of chaos here. And as long as we can hit some headshots, especially those Zangors, they can be a little bit annoying. And honestly, I did kind of feel good being able to be this mobile. Like, even though it's really not that bad going in and out of heavy stance. Sometimes in this game, it can definitely catch you off guard. You can definitely get a grab. You can definitely get grabbed or something like that. But yeah, those sorcerers are definitely really dangerous. So I'm trying to use the corner to my advantage right there, just to filter in all those Zangors. And as you can see right there, just making sure that you can hit those headshots, and you can definitely just pop Zangors off the floor, which is nice. And we do have the heavy bot here for wave 15, which is pretty important against chaos. I think when it comes to wave 15, at least picking up the heavy bot is pretty important, so you can reduce the amount of range damage you take. And big execution right there. But yeah, okay, see, right here, like, for example, with the Terminator, how me and the heavy bot were able to focus him down, that made the heavy bolt rifle look pretty good, huh? That made the heavy bolt rifle look pretty good. But when it comes to Terminators, don't try to just, win a gunfight with the heavy bolt rifle with them, because it's definitely not going to go in your favor, unless they're scanned. As you can see right there, the hellbrute is getting pretty shredded right there since it's scanned. And then another thing I'm trying to do there is, to get the enemies filtering in there, I try to throw a grenade to hit everybody. I think I maybe hit one or two enemies with the grenade, but it was just a regular grenade, so it ultimately isn't going to do much. But yeah, you know what? I have to admit, shield without any perks, still pretty good. As you can see right here, the heavy bolt rifle is getting some clean damage on the hellbrutes. As long as I have the shield up, I'm not too worried about anything. But unfortunately, we do have a teammate that is down. And being able to navigate the rooms here when it comes to triple hellbrute, especially without a dreadnought, it's very important to make sure you know where you're going, and also it's very important to roll around corners. That is one of the most important things. Now, hellbrutes can definitely just teleport to you. But, I guess pretty much any enemy that's a chaos enemy that, they can teleport to you if they're Rubric Marine, Hellbrutes. The Disc Shamans are pretty fast, but they can't teleport. Zangors cannot teleport, so sometimes that's a good enemy to try to, basically just filter around corners. Terminators, right there, I do unfortunately try to go for the res, which honestly, it was not a good play. Just there's so many enemies around me right here. Yep, spinning away from the Terminator, making sure you can roll under that. Going for a perfect dodge there, but unfortunately I'm not playing the assault class, so I was not able to get that. And right there, very clutch execution right there. I was able to get some ammo back, I was able to get armor back. Unfortunately, I just can't find an opportunity to pick up my teammates here. But yeah, when it comes to the hellbrutes with the heavy bolt rifle, at the very least, I felt like I could take some chip shots here and there. As long as I could find some ground, and considering that I was a little bit more mobile, as long as I could find some ground, I had no issue just turning around and getting some shots up. But yeah, this is wave 15. This is wave 15, level 1 heavy, prestige 2, or maybe level 2. I just know I have 1 perk. So yeah, maybe it's a level 2 heavy, and I unfortunately go down. But I do have the Guardian Relic, because throughout the other waves, it wasn't too big of a deal. It was really just this chaos situation that was getting a little bit out of control. And yeah, you have to consider, we are missing 2 team perks, which is terrible. I do not recommend doing this. This is definitely not something you should do. Do not jump into normal siege mode. I mean, I guess unless you can pull it off, but like if you're dying all the time, it's not going to look very good if you do not have a team perk. So regardless, I think if it's normal siege mode, it's still pretty irresponsible to jump in without a team perk. And yeah, I mean, sometimes I still see people jumping into Absolute 2.0 without team perks. I understand that can be really annoying. But my intention here was not to be in the way. I definitely used the heavy bolt rifle quite a bit, so I kind of understood, you know, the qualities that I needed to have. As long as I was using the heavy bolt rifle, in which I am familiar with, I understood how I had to play around it, basically. As long as I was as mobile as I am right here, I can just, you know, keep rolling around, taking a second, getting a couple shots in, roll away, and ultimately, I was actually in a pretty good position here to just continue gaining some ground. And I was also allowing my teammates to respawn, which is nice. But yeah, making sure you turn around and taking out some enemies is a huge part of siege mode. And knowing when to get out of the rooms that are dangerous is also a huge part of you know, siege mode. And I don't know if you noticed, but I still have like 400 points here. So I do try my best to jump over to, you know, the terminal to get some, I think I was aiming for stims here, or a Guardian Relic, because I knew as long as we got 1 hellbrute away, I could probably find an opportunity to get some items, but as you can see right there, the hellbrute is pretty low. So ultimately what I really want to do is take out 1 hellbrute, and then I saw the sorcerer, which is kind of a red flag, by the way. Sorcerers are the biovores of chaos, but they just don't have spore mines. Since they can res back rubric marines, they can just start filling the board with, you know, unfortunately, with a very dangerous enemy that's almost as dangerous as spore mines. Now, honestly, with spore mines nerfed, rubric marines are definitely more dangerous than spore mines. But yeah, there I was able to get some stims, which is nice. But yeah, sorcerers, if you just left basically what I'm doing to compare them to biovores is if you just let sorcerers just kind of hang out and do what they want, yeah, they can just fill the board with res rubric marines, which is a little bit annoying. So yeah, making sure I get close, get those headshots. That was an overkill, by the way, unfortunately, on that rubric. I'm not too sure how that happened. But yeah, as long as I saw rubrics on my screen, I knew I was able to get some armor, which is okay. But now that we have 1 hellbrute here, I was just trying to stay alive. I have 2 stims. I was able to use my points on stims, which definitely helps out. It's really hard getting over to that terminal, especially fighting chaos. And that was an unfortunate stun right there. I definitely lost some contested health, but yeah, see, with the heavy bolt rifle, it's very hard to get your contested health back. See, since you don't have strategic stand with the heavy bolt rifle, in order to basically trade with the weapon, I mean, you're just not able to trade with it unless you have the shield. And when it comes to your contested health, at least, you're definitely not going to be able to regenerate it as fast as the damage you are going to take from something like a Terminator or even a Rubric Marine for the most part. But yeah, still, my teammates were able to get back on their feet. As you saw, that bulwark was definitely getting a little bit of a highlight in there, which is nice. But yeah, as long as I'm able to hit some headshots with the hellbrutes, I was able to put up some good damage. Honestly, dude, the heavy bolt rifle is pretty good against the disc shamans, so that's cool, but I know the heavy bolter also shreds them as well. The melt is pretty good against them, but the plasma, you know, depends on how good you are with the plasma when it comes to the disc shamans. But yeah, I would definitely not recommend. I would not recommend jumping into normal siege mode without perks with the heavy bolt rifle. This was definitely an experience that I needed to have some. I needed to have some time in wave 15 to feel comfortable doing this, basically. And overall, I'm very happy that my teammates were able to, redeem themselves when they respawned, which is nice, and we're actually able to gain some ground here on this fight. Big slam on the Terminator, and yeah, as you can see with the heavy bolt rifle, the spread can get pretty crazy, so going all in on headshots can definitely be a little risky. But yeah, as long as I was able to get ammo back with those executions, I was definitely not too worried about just letting it spray, basically. But yeah, I'm probably going to jump back into siege mode when I play heavy with the plasma. I'm definitely very curious to see how that is going to perform. I know it's probably one of the best weapons in the game for siege mode, so I'm definitely really happy to try that out. I will likely try that out on Prestige 4. My Prestige 4 fully leveled heavy. But yeah, honestly, this was fun. I do want to make sure that I level up my heavy for, siege mode on console, just because it's a useful class to have. But yeah, it's always fun to play heavy. The heavy bolt rifle, even though it feels a little bit underpowered on heavy for siege mode, still was able to put up 20,000. And I took the least damage, which is crazy. That is wild. I did not see that. But yeah, that was definitely very fun. And yeah, level 2 heavy with the heavy bolt rifle in siege mode. You gotta make sure you get those headshots, or this weapon is just not going to do much. Give it perks. Give it perks.